Hey everyone, I just wanted to have another little story time video today. I'll probably be doing these more regularly, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about me failing my driver's test. Yes, I failed it. Luckily, I only had to retake it one time, and I'm talking about like the actual in-car driver's test, so like not like some written piece of crap. I destroyed those tests easily because they're the most common sense thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, with all that said, I'm going to go back to like my high school driver's ed. I didn't take like any like just driver's ed company type driver's ed, like where you just go and like do like the 2 week course kind of thing like that. No, my school had the like whole 1 semester class. It was worth like 2 credits or something like that. So I was like, shoot, I'll take it. So we took that class, and it was like the worst class ever. Not so much because it was just a bad class, but it was just because it was so freaking common sense. It was ridiculous at how easy it was. Like, and I mean, basically, if you've played a driving game or you've seen someone drive, you can pretty much pass that class. So it wasn't anything terrible. The teacher was kind of wacko, but it's whatever. And so, yeah, and I went through the whole process of like, you have to go take the written test, and then once you take the written test, you have to do your hours, and once you do your hours, you could take your driver's test. And once you take your driver's test, you have to get you get a permit or something like that. And once you pass all the stuff with your permit, then you get your final license. And holy cow, it was a stinking trip to take for all that crap. So basically, I passed the class, flying colors. It was whatever. I got my certificate and all that stuff. Easily passed that class. Went to the DMV, took the written test, all that stuff. It was great. Got my permit, and I got to do my hours. Now, this is what I did, and I mean, I'd recommend it just because it's a crap ton easier. I mean, I'm not saying it's like the greatest thing to do. But what I did was maybe kind of just a little bit lied on that, and maybe just kind of a little bit added some extra hours, like, I don't know, 20. But yeah, so all in all, what the writing thing is, like, you have to like get your like 40 hours or something like that, like 20 in the day, 20 at night, stuff like that. I totally did not do that at all whatsoever, but it's okay because, I mean, it's whatever. And so anyway, when I went to go take the driver's test, I'd driven before. It wasn't like I was just flat out like never driven a car before. But so yeah, I was using my dad's old like pickup truck and stuff like that, and it was just, I don't know. But the truck itself was kind of old, so it wasn't like anything major happened to it would be like a terrible thing. It's dead now, like it crapped out literally like a month ago, so it's whatever. But yeah, so I went to go take the driver's test, and as I'm there, the cop. Oh, that was another thing too. Is there you don't take a driver's test with like people from the DMV. They just call the cops, and you have to do basically a ride along with a cop, but you're the one driving, which is kind of intimidating, but not really. And especially for me, like I'm a pretty like big person, so a lot of the cops that were there were like these short little tiny people. So to me, it was just kind of like, looks like I have a child in my car. But yeah, so that was pretty much the whole thing right there. And then the actual day of the test came, and I had to go take the test. And so basically, yeah, I get in a car with the cop, you drive around, and it was the worst thing ever because since it's a cop, they know what to look for, as in like what's breaking the law. So if you go even like a mile over like a mile per hour over the speed limit, he automatically starts questioning you like, do you know why you're going so fast? Why are you going so fast? You know it's against the law to go over the speed limit and crap like that. It's like, yeah, I get it, dude, but 1 mile per hour, are you seriously going to pull me over for that? So it was kind of irritating, and it was just a pain in the butt to have a freaking cop with you the whole time. But so, yeah, and so basically what causes me to end up failing this stupid test is we get, like, and I mean, like, you do, like, the whole drive around and, like, make a left turn, make a right turn, stop the stop sign, go through the stoplight, all that crap, stuff like that. And basically they're just making sure you know how to drive, which is like really easy. But then he was like, okay, now you need to go into this area and like back into a parking spot, which I never backed into a parking spot, but it was pretty easy to like get the hang of. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So I did like the old school, like pulled in, and then I found the spot that I was going to go into. So I like turned the opposite direction where I faced the back end of the truck, like towards the little thing, the little parking spot. And so I was like, okay, that's where I'm going to go in at. And so I did the like old fashioned, like put one hand up on the passenger side seat and like turn around and look out the back window. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna back up into the spot." And he was like, "No, you can only use your mirrors." And I was like, "Well, screw that, man." And so I had never really like used the mirrors and anything like that. And I mean, it's not that hard. Like once you do it and stuff, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to get a hang of. But at that point, I was like, "Oh, well, I've never really done that." So I was just like, "Well, I'm pretty lined up. I'll just go backwards and hope that I land in the lines. If not, what's the worst that could happen? He could just fail me, and I'd be like, oh well." But so that being said, he was like, "Yeah, you got to use your mirrors. You can't just go forward or you can't do the whole backwards thing because it's not safe, I guess, or some crap like that." But funny thing is about mirrors is that the crap in the mirrors appears closer than they really are, or appear further away than what they really are. I don't know. I can't remember which way it goes. But so yeah, you don't get like a good like estimate of how far away you are from crap, and it's a pain in the butt. And so, lucky me, I picked a spot that had a big old giant freaking light pole right behind it, and yeah. So if you can see where this story's going, basically he says, "Okay, go ahead and back up." And I'm like, "Sweet, all right." And so I do the whole flip around, start looking in my mirrors, like getting lined up and everything like that, and I start going backwards. Another thing that I just thought of too was that freaking parking lot was like on a slope, and so I was going up the slope. So normally the car does like a little creep thing, and it'll like go backwards or go forwards by itself, no matter if you have your foot on the brake or on the gas or not. And so at the angle of the slope, the creep stopped working, so it like started going backwards, and I was like, "Oh, sweet, there's a piece of cake." And then like halfway through the spot, I was dead, like I just stopped, and I wouldn't move anymore, and I was like, "Crap, I gotta give it a little gas just to get it going." So I like tapped on the gas, and it kind of rolled, but then it kind of rolled forward again. And at this point, I think the cop was like, "This idiot doesn't know what he's doing." And at that point, in my head, I was like, "I'm an idiot, and I don't know what I'm doing." And so anyway, I hit the gas a little bit more, and it starts rolling backwards, and I'm like, "Oh, I got to give it a little bit more gas." Needless to say, I gassed it a little bit more than what I should have, and sure enough, went straight into the light pole, backed up into it, and yeah. It was one of the funniest things because as I hit the light pole, the cop just like kind of spazzed, and he was like, "Bah!" and like did this weird sound, and it was pretty funny. I almost laughed, but I didn't want to because then it would have like sounded like I just didn't care, which really I didn't. And so yeah, so he gets out, like goes and checks the back, and I was like, "Well, I guess what do we do now?" And he was like, "Just take me back to the DMV," and I was like, "All right." And so we drove back over there. He gets out, goes, does his thing, and then he walks out, and he was like, "Can't believe you hit the gas," and then like just drove away. And I was like, "Yeah, cool, see you later, dude." And so I go in there, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, you need to work on your turning and your reversing into spots and stuff like that." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, no crap." And then she was like, "Oh, and other than that, yeah, you failed. So you have to take it again." And I think it was like $15 to take those stupid tests. And so I was like, "Great, I have to spend money to take another test that I don't want to take." And so basically, I don't know how long it was after that, like a month or so after that, you have to do like another like drive for however X amount of hours, which I may or may not have lied on again. And so anyway, this time I went to like the town next to ours that also like does the same kind of thing. Like you take the driver's test with a cop in Hagerman. And so I went down there, got in the car, and the cop comes out there, and we're like kind of sitting there, and he was like, "All right," he said, "just drive around the block and you'll be good." And I was like, "No freaking way." And he said, "Yeah," and he was like, he said, just drive around the block and you'll be good." And so I was just kind of like amazed at how easy this was gonna go. And so we just kind of sat there, and as we're driving, he was like, "I just want to talk to you about a few things." And he was like, "If you're ever driving and you see an animal and it's something small like a dog or a cat or anything like that, and you're in like a high traffic area," he was like, "just suck it up and hit the thing." And he was like, "I know it sounds bad," he said, "but if it's between you hitting a dog or swerving and then hitting another car," he was like, "you obviously want to just hit the dog." And he was like, "Now, if it's like a moose and something that could still kill you either way if you hit it really hard enough, or like a tree, for instance, or maybe a light pole, then obviously, yeah, you kind of want to try and swerve and get out of the way of that stuff, but also just be careful while doing it, just so you don't swerve into oncoming traffic and whatnot." And so, yeah, we just kind of had that little talk, and then he was talking about stuff that was in like the driving handbook, I guess, that they have to use. And like, no joke, he said something along the lines of, in the book it says, and then he stopped and paused for a few seconds, and I don't know what was about to happen, and he just says, screw the dang book, it just says this, and then basically that was it. And literally, no joke, I drove around the block, and in my head I was like, oh, he was probably just joking about the drive around the block thing. And so, I mean, like, legit around the block, like 4 right turns, that was it. And then I was like, where do I gotta go now? And he was like, oh, you can just go back to the parking lot now. And so we go to the parking lot, and I was like, oh, he's gonna make me back into a spot. And then he was like, yeah, just park right here, we're good. And I was blown away at how simple this guy made it. And I was like, sweet, dude. And so basically what it was is like me backing out of the parking spot was used as my reverse skills, basically, which was amazing. I was like, thank you very much. And so all in all, that test took us maybe like 5 minutes, if even that. And so that was pretty awesome. And that pretty much sums up the whole how I got my driver's license thing, but that's also like part of the story of how I failed my driver's test. But funny thing is, flash forward about 4 years, 4 years, I don't know, something like that, 3 or 4 years. I'm out of high school, or I was out of high school now, and this thing comes up on my like Facebook page, and it's talking about this cop from the town that we used to live in who got into some trouble with some other people doing bad things, you know, yeah. And sure enough, it was the guy that failed me on my driver's test. And so I had a little moment of redemption where I commented on this post, and I just said, that's what you get for failing me on my driver's test. And it was kind of like a mic drop situation, and I left it at that. Some people hated it, some people freaking loved it, and they laughed at it, and like people were like, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. And so, yeah, all in all, that's pretty much the story of how I failed my driver's test, and the story of how I got redemption on the guy who failed me. But yeah, other than that, I mean, after that, it was fine. No driving problems since, except for some like car breakdowns, and other than that, we're all good. Oh, and I backed into my sister's car one time, but that's a whole other story. Well, not really. I mean, I literally just backed into my sister's car one time. That's about it. That's all there is to that story. And and it was on Christmas Eve, I believe. But yeah. So I'll probably just leave it there. I'll let this gameplay finish out, and if it needs to, and see you guys in the next video. Sorry for no face cam today. Just didn't want to set it up really, and the battery was dead, so it would have taken forever to charge, and I needed to get this video recorded as quickly as possible. But so yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Toodaloo, bye bye.
Nomad, calling in care package.